The crystal towers of Kelthor Prime stretched into the purple sky like frozen lightning. For 3,000 years, these magnificent structures had stood as symbols of the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. The Keltharians had mastered space travel when most species were still discovering fire. They could bend reality itself, create matter from pure energy, and their cities floated among the stars like jewel crowns. But today, Admiral Vexthal stood in the command center of his flagship, watching those same towers crumble into dust on his viewing screen. The Shadow Swarm had returned. Vexthal's 6 arms moved frantically across the control panels, his crystalline skin flickering with the nervous patterns that betrayed his fear. Around him, his crew worked desperately, but he could see the defeat in their movements. They had tried everything. Every weapon in their vast arsenal had been turned against these creatures, and nothing worked. The things that destroyed his worlds didn't even seem fully real. They moved through space like living darkness, consuming everything in their path. Planets, stars, entire solar systems vanished into nothingness when they passed. The Keltharians' most powerful energy weapons simply passed through them, as if they were firing at shadows. Admiral, his communications officer, called out, her voice tight with panic. Kelth 7 has gone silent. The evacuation ships never made it out. Vexthal closed all 6's eyes. Another 1 billion souls, gone. His people had ruled 7 worlds across 3 star systems. Now only Kelthor Prime remained, and the darkness was already at their outer defenses. Sir, the defense platforms are reporting direct contact with the swarm, his tactical officer announced. Weapons are having no effect. The creatures are passing right through our shields. Through the massive viewports of the command bridge, Vexthal could see them now. They looked like tears in reality itself, dark shapes that hurt to look at directly. They moved with purpose, flowing around his defense satellites like water around stones, heading straight for his homeworld. His youngest officer, barely past her molting season, turned to him with desperate eyes. Admiral, what do we do? Vexthal had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries. He had fought pirates, rebels, and ancient war machines left over from forgotten civilizations. He had never retreated from a battle, never abandoned a world under his protection. But as he watched the Shadow Swarm approach his homeworld, he realized there was only one option left. Prepare the evacuation fleets, he said quietly. All civilians, all non-essential personnel. Get them to the Outer Rim colonies. But, sir, those colonies won't be safe for long. The swarm will find them eventually. Vexthal's mandibles clicked together in the Keltharian expression of grim acceptance. I know, but it will buy us time. As the evacuation began, ships streaming away from Kelthor Prime like fleeing birds, Vexthal made his way to the ancient archives deep within his flagship. Here, in the oldest section of the ship, were records that predated his civilization, artifacts and knowledge from species that had vanished long before the first Keltharian had looked up at the stars. He found what he was looking for in a crystalline storage matrix that hummed with age. The ancient protocol, a message format so old that most scholars believed it was just mythology. According to legend, it was a universal distress call, a plea that could be understood by any intelligent species, no matter how alien. The protocol was simple in concept, but devastating in its implications. It was a confession of absolute defeat, an admission that the sender's entire civilization was beyond saving. It was a call for gods, for powers beyond mortal understanding, for anyone or anything in the universe capable of facing threats that conventional weapons could not touch. Vexthal had never believed he would use it. His communications officer found him there an hour later, hunched over the ancient transmitter array. Admiral, the last evacuation ship has cleared the system. We're alone. Good. Vexthal replied, his fingers dancing over controls that hadn't been used in millennia. Then we have nothing left to lose. The message he crafted was simple. It contained the mathematical constants that any technological species would recognize, proof that the senders were intelligent. It showed the location of the Keltharian territories, the path of the Shadow Swarm's destruction, and most importantly, it conveyed the desperate nature of their situation. But it was the final part of the message that made Vexthal's crystalline hands shake as he entered it. The ancient protocol demanded absolute honesty from those who used it. The sender had to acknowledge their own failure, their complete inability to protect their people, and their willingness to accept any consequence that might come from their plea. Broadcast it, he told his officer. Send on all frequencies, through every communications array we have left, scattered across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. The message pulsed out into the darkness of space, carried by quantum transmitters and fold space relays. It raced past dying stars and through nebulae, across thousands of light years, searching for anyone who might answer. 3 months later, in a small solar system on the outer edge of the galaxy, the message reached a modest blue planet where a young species had just learned to travel between stars. And on that world, someone was listening. The bridge of the UES Endeavour hummed with quiet activity as Captain James Mitchell reviewed the alien message for the 100th time. The translation software had worked overtime to decode the mathematical patterns and emotional undertones embedded in the transmission. What they found was a civilization's dying scream echoing across the galaxy. "Still can't believe they actually answered," muttered Lieutenant Bradley Hayes from a navigation station. "I mean, we've been listening to space radio for decades and never heard anything like this." Mitchell nodded, his eyes fixed on the massive crystalline ship that hung in space before them. The Keltharian vessel was beautiful in a way that human engineering had never achieved. It looked like someone had grown a cathedral out of living diamond, all flowing curves and surfaces that caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow patterns. "Remember, people," Mitchell announced to his crew, "we're making history here. First official contact with an alien civilization. Let's not mess it up." Ambassador Rebecca Thompson adjusted her formal diplomatic jacket one last time before stepping into the transport shuttle. She had trained for this moment her entire career, though she had always imagined it would happen under better circumstances. Meeting aliens because they were dying wasn't exactly the first contact scenario the diplomatic corps had prepared for. The interior of the Keltharian ship was even more impressive than its exterior. The walls seemed to pulse with soft light, and the floors were made of some material that felt solid but looked like captured starlight. Thompson and her small team followed their escort through corridors that twisted and curved in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The Keltharian who met them in what appeared to be a conference room was clearly military, though his rank insignia meant nothing to human eyes. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his body covered in crystalline plates that shifted color with his emotions. 6 arms moved with nervous energy, and his large compound eyes reflected the room's ambient light. "I am Admiral Vexthal," he said through a translation device that hung in the air between them. The voice sounded tired, defeated. "You received our transmission." "We did," Thompson replied, trying to project confidence despite the alien surroundings. "The United Earth government has authorized me to offer whatever assistance we can provide." Vexthal's crystalline features shifted in what the translation software identified as a prize, though it looked more like confusion to Thompson's eyes. "Assistance? From your species?" Dr. Patricia Wells, the mission xenobiologist, stepped forward. "We understand you're facing some kind of threat. These shadow swarm creatures you mentioned in your message. You cannot comprehend what we face," Vexthal said, his voice carrying what sounded like pity. "These entities exist beyond the normal laws of physics. They consume reality itself, leaving nothing but void where entire worlds once stood. Our most advanced weapons pass through them as if they were striking empty air." Captain Mitchell frowned. "Maybe we can help you develop new weapons. Earth has experience with unconventional threats." The Keltharian admiral's color shifted to what the translator marked as bitter amusement. "Your world has existed for what, a few million years? Your species has barely begun to explore space. We have fought across the stars for millennia, and our technology can reshape matter at the quantum level. What could you possibly offer that we have not already tried?" The bluntness of the statement stung, but Thompson maintained her diplomatic composure. Sometimes an outside perspective can reveal solutions that aren't obvious to those too close to the problem. "Look at you!" Vexthal gestured with 2 of his arms. "You are so small, so fragile. Your ships are crude metal constructions held together with primitive chemistry. Your weapons throw simple projectiles or generate basic energy beams. The ancient protocol was meant to summon powers beyond mortal understanding, beings of cosmic significance who might stand against forces that conventional armies cannot touch. Dr. Wells bristled at the dismissive tone. We may not have your advanced technology, but we've survived on our planet for millions of years. We face extinction events, ice ages, natural disasters that would challenge any species. By hiding in caves and eating roots, Vexthal replied, the shadow swarm does not care about your survival instincts. It erases existence itself. Mitchell could see the conversation going nowhere fast. The Keltharians had clearly expected something more impressive than humans when they sent their desperate message. But something about their description of these shadow swarm creatures bothered him. Admiral, he said, could we see the data you collected on these entities? Visual records, energy readings, anything you have? Vexthal's color shifted again, this time to resignation. If it will convince you of the futility of your presence here, certainly. The holographic display that materialized in the center of the room showed scenes of destruction that made Thompson's stomach turn. Entire planets simply vanishing, leaving behind empty space where thriving worlds had existed moments before. The creatures themselves looked like tears in reality, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light and matter equally. But Dr. Wells was studying the recordings with the intensity of someone who spent years analyzing predator behavior. These movement patterns, she muttered. James, look at this. They're not random. Mitchell leaned closer to examine the data. What are you seeing? Feeding behavior, Wells said quietly. This isn't some cosmic force of destruction. These things are hunting. And if they're hunting... She turned to face Vexthal, her expression suddenly animated. Admiral, have you analyzed the biological signatures of the worlds they've attacked? Look for common factors in the ecosystems they target. Vexthal's crystalline features shifted to what the translator identified as condescension. Doctor, these are not biological entities. They exist beyond such crude categorizations. Maybe, Wells replied, but everything that hunts follows patterns. And if there are patterns, there are weaknesses. For the first time since the meeting began, uncertainty flickered across the Keltharian's features. Thompson seized a moment. Give us a chance, Admiral. What do you have to lose? Dr. Patricia Wells crouched in the ruins of what had once been a thriving research station on Kel 7's smaller moon. The air recyclers in her environmental suit worked overtime to filter out the strange particles that drifted through the abandoned corridors like toxic snow. Around her, the human research team moved carefully through the debris, collecting samples that the Keltharians had never bothered to examine. This place gives me the creeps, muttered Dr. Michael Hayes as he scraped residue from a wall that looked like it had been partially dissolved. It's like the shadow swarm just reached out and erased half the station. Wells nodded, but her attention was focused on her portable microscope. For 3 days, she had been analyzing every sample they collected, looking for something the Keltharians had missed. Their hosts had been patient, but clearly skeptical, treating the human research effort like a child's attempt to solve an adult problem. But Wells had spent 15 years studying parasites on Earth. She knew how these relationships worked, how one species could completely transform another. And something about the shadow swarm's behavior patterns reminded her of the worst infestations she had encountered. Patricia, you need to see this, called Dr. Hayes from across the ruined laboratory. He was hunched over a scanning device, his voice tight with excitement. Wells hurried over, her boots crunching on crystalline debris. Hayes pointed to a scanner's display, where thousands of tiny dots moved in complex patterns across the screen. What am I looking at? She asked. Microscopic organisms. Hayes replied. They're everywhere in this facility, but they're not random contamination. Look at the concentration patterns. Wells studied the data, her heart rate increasing as she recognized what she was seeing. The organisms were clustered around areas where Keltharians had reported the most shadow swarm activity. More importantly, they showed signs of active reproduction and genetic modification. Michael, these aren't just parasites, she whispered. They're engineers. Look at how they've modified the local cellular structures. She pulled up comparative scans from healthy Keltharian facilities. The difference was startling. In normal environments, the local microorganisms maintain stable populations and predictable behavior patterns. But in areas touched by the shadow swarm, everything had changed. The parasites had infected local wildlife, but not to kill them. Instead, they were transforming their hosts, rewriting their genetic code, and enhancing their natural abilities beyond anything that should have been possible. A simple scavenger creature had been turned into something that could phase through solid matter. A flying organism had developed the ability to manipulate gravity fields. Captain Mitchell needs to see this immediately, Wells said, her voice shaking with the implications of her discovery. 20 minutes later, Captain Mitchell stood in the temporary command center they had established in the research station's main laboratory. The holographic display showed Wells' findings in stark detail, and even to his non-scientific eyes, the pattern was clear. "So you're telling me," Mitchell said slowly, "that these shadow swarm creatures aren't actually the real threat? They're the end result," Wells explained. "These microscopic parasites infect local wildlife and transform them into those reality-bending monsters the Keltharians have been fighting. The swarm is just a symptom. The disease has been spreading across this sector for months, maybe years." Ambassador Thompson's voice crackled through the communication system from the Keltharian flagship. "Are you certain about this?" "Admiral Vex, though, says their sensors have never detected anything like what you're describing." Hayes pulled up another display, showing the parasite's camouflage capabilities. "That's because these things are specifically designed to avoid conventional detection. They hide in the quantum noise that most advanced sensors filter out automatically. The Keltharian sophisticated equipment has been too advanced to see them." Mitchell felt a grim smile cross his face. It was exactly the kind of problem that Earth's more primitive approach might be able to solve. While the Keltharians had been firing quantum disruptors at cosmic entities, the real enemy had been smaller than the period at the end of the sentence. "Rebecca," he said into the communication unit, "patch me through to Earth Command. I need to speak with Colonel David Price immediately." The response came faster than he had expected. Colonel Price's weathered face appeared on the communication screen, his gray hair and scarred features marking him as a veteran of Earth's worst conflicts. "Mitchell, please tell me you didn't call me out here just to look at pretty alien architecture." "David, I need the Beast Corps. All of them. And I need them now." Price's expression grew serious. He had known Mitchell for 12 years, had served with him during the Titan colony crisis. Mitchell wasn't the type to exaggerate a threat. "What are we hunting, James?" Wells stepped into the communication frame. "Parasites, Colonel. Microscopic ones that are turning local wildlife into creatures that can bend reality. The aliens have been fighting the wrong enemy for months." Price was quiet for a long moment, his tactical mind processing the implications. "How small are we talking?" "Smaller than anything the Keltharians can effectively track," Hayes added, "but large enough for Earth predators to detect. We're talking about a hunting job, Colonel, not a military engagement." A slow smile spread across Price's face. "Doctor, you just made my day. The Fenrir is already loaded and ready for deployment. We can be at your location in 6 days. What should I tell the Keltharians?" Thompson asked from the flagship. Mitchell looked at the data surrounding him, at the evidence of an infestation that had fooled one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. "Tell them that sometimes you need to fight fire with fire, and sometimes you need to fight impossible alien parasites with Earth's nastiest predators." Price's grin widened. "Mitchell, this is going to be fun. See you in 6 days." As the communication ended, Wells continued studying her samples. Somewhere in the microscopic wilderness of alien parasites, she was beginning to understand their life cycle, their weaknesses, and most importantly, how Earth's enhanced predators might be able to track them down. The hunt was about to begin. The cargo bay of UES Fenrir looked like something from a nightmare, at least to anyone who had never seen Earth's Beast Corps in action. Colonel David Price walked between rows of specialized containment units, each one housing a predator that had been enhanced far beyond what nature had originally intended. "Easy, Rex," he murmured to the massive gray wolf that watched him through reinforced transparent aluminum. The animal was the size of a small shuttle, its muscles rippling beneath bioengineered armor plating that could stop plasma rounds. Enhanced bone density, improved sensory organs, and a nervous system that could process information faster than most computers made Rex one of the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. Sergeant Lisa Crawford approached with a data pad in hand. Final inventory, Colonel. 24 enhanced predators, ranging from the wolves down to the honey badger unit that somehow keeps requesting combat assignments. Price chuckled. The honey badgers had been an experiment that got out of hand. Someone in the enhancement program had thought it would be amusing to give Earth's most fearless creatures improved intelligence and size. The result was a squad of tank-sized animals with the personality of their smaller cousins and the ability to chew through battleship hulls. What's the status on environmental adaptation? Price asked. All units have been fitted with life support enhancement. They can operate in vacuum for up to 6 hours, and the atmospheric processors can handle any alien air mixture we might encounter. The cats are especially excited about low-gravity environments. Price nodded, watching as one of the enhanced mountain lions lazily stretched in its containment unit. The big cats had adapted remarkably well to space travel, and their enhanced reflexes made them incredibly effective in reduced gravity situations. The communication system crackled to life. Colonel Price, we're approaching the Keltharian fleet. Prepare for visual contact with our allies. Through the cargo bay's viewports, Price could see the crystalline ships of the Keltharian fleet hanging in space like jeweled sculptures. They were beautiful, but he could also see the damage they had sustained. Scorch marks, hull breaches, and the dull patches where their self-repair systems had given up trying to fix whatever had hit them. Sergeant Crawford, get the teams ready. I want full deployment capability in 30 minutes. As his people began their final preparations, Price made his way to the bridge. Captain Mitchell was waiting for him, along with Dr. Wells and the rest of the research team. The main display showed a tactical overview of the Kel-4 system, where the heaviest shadow swarm activity had been reported. David, the Keltharians are not happy about this, Mitchell said without preamble. Admiral Vexthal thinks we're sending animals to fight cosmic entities. Maybe that's exactly what we need to do, Price replied. What's the situation on the ground? Dr. Wells brought up a biological scan of Kel-4's surface. The parasite concentration is off the charts. Every major life form on the planet has been infected, and the transformation process is accelerating. We're seeing creatures that shouldn't be able to exist, let alone hunt in coordinated groups. But they're still following basic predator patterns, Dr. Hayes added. They hunt in packs, they establish territories, and they leave scent trails. The Keltharians can't detect those trails, but our enhanced predators should be able to track them easily. Price studied the tactical display. What about the big manifestations? The shadow swarm entities that the Keltharians have been fighting. Those appear when the parasite concentration reaches critical mass, Wells explained. Kill enough of the infected creatures, and the manifestations should fade on their own. The communication system chimed, and Admiral Vexthal's image appeared on the main screen. The Keltharians' crystalline features were shifted to what the translation software marked as deep concern. Colonel Price, I must protest this course of action. You are proposing to send unprotected animals against forces that have destroyed our most advanced combat units. Price stepped closer to the screen. Admiral, with respect, your most advanced combat units were fighting the wrong enemy. You've been shooting at shadows while the real threat was smaller than your sensors could detect. Even if your theory is correct, how can mere beasts succeed where our technology has failed? Because they're not mere beasts, Crawford interjected, joining the conversation. Every predator we've brought has been enhanced for combat situations that your people can't even imagine. Rex here can smell those parasites from orbit. Can your energy weapons do that? On cue, the massive wolf's howl echoed through the ship's corridors, even through the containment systems. The sound made everyone on the bridge take a step back. It was a sound that spoke of millions of years of evolution, of countless hunts across Earth's most dangerous environments. You see, Price continued, Earth spent millions of years teaching its predators how to hunt, how to track, how to survive. We just gave them some upgrades and pointed them at your problem. Vexthal's color shifted to uncertainty. And you believe this will work? Admiral, every creature we brought spent its evolutionary history learning to hunt things that didn't want to be found. Parasites, prey animals, threats that hide in places where conventional weapons can't reach. This is what they were born to do. The deployment began 2 hours later. Price watched from the tactical center as his team spread across Kelfor's surface. The enhanced wolves moved in coordinated packs, their improved senses already picking up scent trails that led to infected wildlife hiding in caves and underground tunnels. The hunting cats worked alone, as was their nature, but their enhanced reflexes and improved strength made them capable of taking down creatures 3 times their size. Even the honey badgers, despite their comical appearance, proved devastatingly effective at digging out parasites that had burrowed into the planet's underground ecosystems. "Colonel," Crawford's voice came to the communication system, "Rex's pack has found something. Sending coordinates now." The tactical display updated to show a massive cave system where the wolf pack had detected the highest concentration of parasites yet encountered. As Price watched, the enhanced predators moved with precision and intelligence that would have impressed any military commander. This wasn't just a hunt. It was an extermination campaign conducted by Earth's most efficient killers. And for the first time since the crisis began, Price felt confident that they were going to win. 3 weeks after the hunt began, Captain James Mitchell stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Keltharian command station, watching something he had never expected to see. Below them, the surface of Kelfor was coming back to life. Green shoots pushed through soil that had been nothing but gray dust just days before. Native creatures that had fled or hidden during the parasite outbreak were returning to areas that had been dead zones. Even the air itself seemed cleaner, no longer carrying the strange metallic taste that had marked the infected regions. "It's remarkable," Admiral Vexthal said, his crystalline features reflecting the soft light filtering through the station's windows. 3,000 years of civilization, and we never learned what your species mastered before you left your homeworld. Mitchell smiled, watching as one of the enhanced mountain lions lazily stalked a ball of light down the corridor outside. "Some things never change, no matter how much you enhance them. We had a lot of practice." Earth wasn't exactly a peaceful place to grow up on. Ambassador Rebecca Thompson joined them at the viewing wall, carrying a data pad filled with reports from across the sector. "The Galactic Council has been monitoring our operation. They want to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth, but they also want to understand how we did what their combined fleets couldn't. The answer is simpler than they think," Dr. Patricia Wells said as she approached the group. She looked tired but satisfied, having spent the past weeks documenting every aspect of the parasite elimination. "We didn't fight the problem. We understood it." Vexthal's color shifted to what the translation software identified as curiosity mixed with respect. "Your creatures showed intelligence in their hunting that exceeded our combat algorithms. They adapted to threats we couldn't even detect. Because that's what predators do," Colonel David Price added, entering the observation area with Sergeant Lisa Crawford at his side. "Every animal we brought here spent millions of years learning to hunt things that were trying not to be found. Parasites, hidden prey, threats that lived in places where normal hunters couldn't reach them." Crawford scratched behind Rex's ears as the massive wolf settled beside her. Even after 3 weeks of constant operations, the enhanced predators showed no signs of fatigue. If anything, they seemed energized by the successful hunt. "The honey badgers found the last nest yesterday. Whatever these parasites were, they're gone now." "Completely eliminated?" Thompson asked. "Not eliminated." Wells corrected. "Controlled. We left enough of the population intact to maintain biological balance, but destroyed their ability to transform host organisms. The local ecosystem can handle them now." Mitchell nodded, understanding the distinction. Earth's approach to pest control had always been about balance rather than total destruction. Wipe out a species completely, and you often created bigger problems down the line. "There's something else," Vexthal said, his voice carrying a tone that the translation software marked as formal announcement. "The Keltharian Council has authorized me to make an offer." He activated a holographic display that showed star charts of the surrounding sectors. "We know of 17 other biological threats in this region of space. Parasites, viral entities, even some artificially created organisms left over from ancient wars. Our energy weapons and quantum disruptors are useless against most of them. You want us to be the galaxy's exterminators?" Price asked, though his tone suggested he wasn't entirely opposed to the idea. "We want you to be our partners," Vexthal replied. The Keltharian Empire offers Earth full membership in our Confederation, with equal voting rights and shared technology access. In exchange, your Beast Corps will help us maintain biological security across our territories. Thompson's diplomatic training kicked in immediately. That's a generous offer, Admiral. But what about the other members of the Confederation? Will they accept humans as equals? They will after they see what you've accomplished here, Vexthal said with conviction. Word of your success has spread throughout the sector. 3 species have already requested assistance with their own parasite problems. Dr. Michael Hayes looked up from his research station. Speaking of which, we've identified those 17 threats you mentioned. Some of them are definitely beyond what conventional weapons can handle, but well within the capabilities of enhanced Earth predators. Mitchell studied the star charts, seeing opportunity where others might see endless dangerous missions. Colonel, what do you think? Ready to take the Beast Corps Galactic? Price's weathered face broke into a grin. Captain, do you know how long I've been waiting for someone to give my people a real challenge? Earth predators versus alien parasites across multiple star systems? That's not a job, that's a vacation. Crawford laughed. The honey badgers are going to be impossible to live with once they hear about this. There's one more thing, Vexthal said. The Council wants to establish a joint research facility. Human biological expertise, combined with Keltharian technology. We believe the results could benefit both our species enormously. Wells's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. A chance to study alien ecosystems with the best equipment in the galaxy? I'm in. Mitchell looked around at his team, seeing the same excitement in their faces that he felt building in his own chest. They had come to this sector expecting to find a dying civilization. Instead, they had found partners, allies, and a future that none of them had imagined. Admiral, he said formally, the United Earth government will be very interested in your proposal. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership. Outside the windows, Rex raised his massive head and howled, the sound echoing through the station's corridors. It was a sound of satisfaction, of a hunt successfully completed, and new territories waiting to be explored. The galaxy had just gotten a lot smaller and a lot more interesting.